All right, good morning. Took me a little while there. There's a lot of sync from yesterday's adventure, not being here. Anyway, give me a second here. All right, so consolidation yesterday. No surprise, right? It's usually what happens after big days like that. So now today, got different pictures depending on where we look. Futures didn't get down to this low, which is a little bit of a concern. I mean, as far as the longs go, because if it was down there, it'd be pretty much a no-brainer if it would have, as far as looking for intraday longs. But it didn't get down there, and you can see how it's trading here. The inability to get through, it's creating all of these pivot highs here, and so how does that relate to SPX? Well, I see where there's premium up there, which I'm going to get to. I've gotten written down 4020, which is up here, which is not that far away. But look, if it gets through these highs, I don't know that that's going to stop there, since it's built up such a distance of going sideways here. Now, I mean, with a power bar like that, a consolidation day yesterday, we would think the no downside would be the no-brainer. And maybe that is what occurs. And if it clears here, I think could easily get to, I'm getting a bounce here, could easily get up to 4020 in the futures. 3860. I'm waiting for a signal here to reload. There we go. I've got written down below that, Jacob, but let me take a look. I don't know what happened here. Okay. So, downside, look, I think if it was to go down, and again, assessing this as it unfolds in the morning, if it starts to break down, we could do up there, but it won't have as much premium at that point. We may have to get closer, to just above 4,000, which is where the big open interest is for expiration tomorrow. And that possibility of it, gravitating up there, since it puts in calls or all around that area. So option expiration, quadruple, all of that. I think the downside is limited to this prior low, and the upside, I don't know, for whatever reason, the different reports coming out could light a little bit of a intraday fire rally getting through those highs there, because shorts would look to cover, because the unknown of going back up into this area. I mean, still bearish, but you never know what'll happen. So the middle of the bar, getting up there to 4040, that would be like, that ain't getting through there. It's going to hit a wall with those converging moving averages and coming up to the middle of that bar and so on. So I see my internet connection is a little shaky this morning, or e-signal is. Anyway, spiders, bounced up a little bit yesterday. It's kind of drifting here. You can see this down here near that low. Little retest pattern and a wide range bar into the close there yesterday. And, it's holding near the top of that. So while we've got this bigger picture here that looks bearish, that this is going lower, it's sitting on support. And who wants to short at support? Unless you're willing to give it a big old stop. And so the congestion here on SPY, you got these overlapping bars right here between 389 and 400. And I mentioned the open interest at 4,000. So look, this, if it clears those highs, this should be a significant resistance area. Puts were open yesterday. It'll be more important not to get sucked into that. Meaning, in what way, McGraw? So for those of you that are, on the internet there, social media, McGraw, who does a lot of credit spreads on SPX, says 39.20 puts were opened yesterday, meaning opened as far as that was a strike that wasn't available. A new gamma level was bought. So there's new open interest contracts down there. So 325, which my opinion is no way it's going down there today, but what is the premium down there? 39.25. That ain't right. 38.25. Oh, 39.25. I'm like, okay, 39.25. So open interest, according to these numbers, was yesterday. It went up considerably yesterday, or the day from the day before into yesterday. Since that, I mean, that's huge. But who the hell? 39.25. Nobody's going to sell that as a credit spread. That'd be like, asking to get your head handed to you potentially. So those are bearish bets that it's going to go lower. So when we look at these big open interest levels, we look at them as being possible support areas. And in addition, when this word gamma is used, what it really means is if it gets through that, it could fuel prices going lower. And so 40, that increased quite a bit. This is eSignal, Ed, and I don't use it during the trading day, but because I placed the orders through Interactive Brokers. But so I've got this on here so for discussion and looking at these different open interests and stuff that we can take a look at, for our discussions. So again, 40.20. That's pretty far away, but the problem is this void. So just looking at this bar, I would say, it's unlikely. Futures look different than SPX, of course. They don't trade exactly the same like SPY and SPX. You're just looking at different vehicles, but based on the same numbers, they don't get very far away from one from the other. So 40.20 for today. Well, now it's only 50 cents. It was a little bit more. So with that big, what's down below? I had 38.45. Which I think is reasonable, for today. 70 cents by 85 cents down here. Yeah. So I think this is the better bet. It's at support. We see it stabilizing yesterday. If it clears this high, I don't think it can get up there. I think it could if it hits 4,000, just because it may be a magnet for it to get there, but it'd be a big level. Yeah. All right, let's look at our other markets. Oh, was it this one? Oh, internals here are neutral. So, you had the big spike down, which confirmed, by the AD line down there, and it just popped up to neutral yesterday, which totally makes sense. Things just went nowhere. And, so sentiment not really doing much of anything. So no advantage here. I need to do that. Yes, Rob, sorry. I got to look back and forth for the different chats. So yes, McGraw is in the green room. And we fondly call him McGraw because years ago we coined that name because Dan would mention a trade and he'd be like, before the last word came out of his mouth, he was in it. And so, quick draw McGraw, the guy with the gun and all that. All righty. No hesitation there. Yeah, and that comes with experience. When you are with Dan for a while, or from the past and all that, and you hear the terminology, you learn the mindset and where we're going with that. And we say XYZ is at support and formed a bottoming tail bar. Well, that's going to be some kind of a long or a put spread. So this is bearish, wide bar down, the inside bar, which was the expectation yesterday. So far, another inside bar, forming topping tails, forming bottoming tail bars. What does that mean? It means a trading range. And until it breaks one way or the other, we don't know. If it clears these highs, buyers step in here. It's got room to pop. If it clears the lows, the downside, I think, is relatively limited. So the danger here, in a sense, is if it breaks this low and it spikes down here, it's going to be like, oh my God, it's going to be like looking huge. And it may come down here and start ripping to the upside. So just be aware of that. In addition, if you look at, the Dow, which has been weaker, it already broke that low yesterday, and it just climbed its way back up, and you see the same little W kind of a pattern there. So, we'll get through today. The big interest is this weekly chart and what it's going to look like at the end of the day tomorrow, because that is setting up a continuation pattern lower into the Fed meeting. I think more or less we're going to be in a tighter or maybe a little wider trading range. I don't think we're going to get any huge moves one way or the other. And so, that's the general bias. Just keep that in mind. Don't get caught up into like, oh, this thing's going to be another, day like this, because that's unlikely. And the same consolidation, which is bearish, even though it's got a little bottoming tail bar. What would have been great if this had a tail on the top and it got rejected yesterday. I'd be more confident in the downside at that point for this coming down here. But, this has now created a little support point, which you can see on the hourly time frame, which is that bottoming tail bar. But here, so as we look at charts, right, from our point of view, it's a representation of what others are thinking. What are their expectations? So a little bottoming pattern creates expectations and go higher, right? Simple. Does it go higher? Well, it started to. Well, it stopped right away, at this next little point here and formed a pivot. Now it's created a little resistance point, which I would say, okay, that should be no big deal to get through because of this bottoming pattern. And then it forms this bottoming tail bar right there. This thing should have taken off. Now, granted, it's in the middle of the night, but as we look at these patterns, you got whoever's trading. That's a good pattern for a long, when a bottoming pattern. And it doesn't go, and it pulls back again. And just as a general rule, it's like baseball, 3 strikes and you're out. It doesn't get through it 3 times, and then you get this 180 reversal there, you're out. Longs, as patient as one could be, after this reversal, it just ain't happening. Sellers are just too strong. And while it's still in its trading range, bar by bar analysis and pivots and such tells us that sellers are aggressive here still, even with this void above, which is a short-term opportunity for a bounce. So nonetheless, if it gets through that, but right now looking at this, it'd be like, well, it doesn't seem like that's likely, but hey, if it holds here and goes back up again, it's like, this is what makes us, everybody, kind of crazy. It was like when you get these trading ranges going nowhere and things flip-flopping back and forth, it's either you make a choice, stay away from it. But if you take the trades and it flips the other way, it's like, hey, I got to get out of the way or whatever. It's frustrating. Now, we already looked at ES, looked at NQ. YM's up here a couple of points. I'm flipping through these charts here because there's just nothing of significance going on at the moment. Bitcoin coming back deep. Remember, wide range bar, power bar, stay in the upper half. It ain't doing that. And so now we've got to avoid, what was created on the way up. We've got to avoid that was created on the way down. And we got the same old trading range going on here. Right? So all these markets, well, a little downside shake out there, but which is that tail there. So I'm not seeing any real advantages here. Silver's staying strong, which is kind of odd, because the dollar, as we've been looking at, hasn't been doing much, and that's actually going down. So it doesn't make sense to me, but it's happening. Crude oil, it's forming the sell setup here. Right? A week ago, I told you about this. Look out for this breakdown bar failure, and it happened. And of course, why it ripped right back up, but it stalled at the next level. So Steven's saying often silver doesn't make sense to me. Well, a lot of times they move kind of together, gold and silver, but they're not now. So there's something going on with that beyond whatever I can think anyway. But so look, interest rates are going up. Look at the 5-year. Look at the 3-month and yesterday they were saying some people were calling for only 1/4 point. Some were saying do nothing. We got to see what's going on. To me, that sounds like money managers that are like ready to take the gas pipe, throwing their thoughts out there, not based on what the markets are saying. Looking at these interest rates. I mean, I'm in the camp, get the freaking pain over with, and whatever happens, a new industry use for silver, I don't know. This is, just lurking up there at 3.5, and it's not backing off. You can see the weekly chart. And see, just whipping around here right now. So, and lastly, I'll look at the transports and then turn over to Dan. And they're not gonna, that already broke the low here. So we got this weekly reversal going on. And bottom line is, gonna jiggle around here today. What might look powerful on the way up probably won't get far, and whatever's looking great on the way down isn't going to go very far either. So there you go. All yours, Dan.
Good morning. Yeah, this guy Barry Lickstein is on CNBC, and he's a very smart dude. And man, I don't know the guy. Very great commentary. He's he's a successful businessman on the ground, and he's one advocating they should only do 1/4. And he has very good data points. He lists objectively. We talked about that term yesterday in MT Live. Objectively, he's saying why. He's saying the housing market is tanked. That that's gonna we're headed for a recession, if not already in one. He says retail sales, consumer confidence is a record low. People don't have the money. There's going to be less spending at Christmas. That's going to force retailers to put, inventories already jacked up. They got to, they're going to be cutting costs on that. Oil and commodities are down. Unemployment's going to go to 5-6%. He said a year ago in LA, there was 165 ships trying to deliver their goods because of the backlog. He said now there's only 6. I mean, those are all good points. He's saying the Fed has done their job, and the risk is they're going to put us in a horrible recession as opposed to a medium one. I'm like, all right, points well taken, but I still put my money with the bond market, and that's going to be 3/4. All right, so I just thought those were interesting points. Let's see what I have over here. All our opens seem fine. Got a meta call spread. This lift I just posted. Remember when this thing rocketed? And look, we got a beautiful W bottom here. I said, give me a pullback. And we got our pullback yesterday, MT Live, 50% retracement into a WRB, 40% retracement from here to here. And that's exactly what we're getting. So if the market weren't teetering, if the market were more bullish, I would just buy the stock over yesterday's high. But because the market is teetering here, more bearish, then I'm just giving this as a naked $14 put, or 15, whatever I said, and give a big old stop last week's low, and we'll manage it that way. Yeah, when you lose your job, right, and that's what he's saying. You know, when your job's in fear, what's the first thing you're going to do? Stop spending. And that's exactly what the Fed is trying to accomplish. Stop spending, slow down. All right, I don't know what this thing is, but look at a weekly. It's kind of on a
And they can't do that while they're handing out dollars, giving out money.
No, trillion. Yeah, here, take out more trillion. Yeah. Well, yeah, plus student loan forgiveness too. Don't forget that, you know, so those are dollars that they can do. All right, this thing's coming out of a coma, so something's up with that. We can watch on a pullback. Yeah, and Biden got involved with the railroads here to help solve the strike. Greg, do you think that has anything to do with elections coming up? I'm trying to, you know, make the union leaders happy. I don't know. Curious about that one. All right, this thing trades crazy. I have no interest in that. I just saw Stolled going by the ticker here. Look at this big old gap. Well, it's not gapping over yesterday's high, but it's, again, retracement concepts. Look, here's yesterday's high. It's gapping up to here. So that's about 90%. That's pretty darn bullish gap. 30-minute high. McGraw, let's see if we can do a 1 DTE put spread. I gave Netflix as a 1 DTE put spread. You know, it's just in a trading range here, kind of a failed head and shoulders with these little breakdown failures and now gapping up. That's a put spread under yesterday's low. Periodically, I just look at cruise ships, hotels, and some airlines. And, you know, there's some interesting reversals here in a big trading range. You can, and some of these have pretty good juice. If you're going out to October, like you can do the 40s here or even 35s on Alaskan Airlines. Look at Northern Caribbean, that closing breakout. You know, it's not a core trade at all, but it could be a couple day swing trade. Cook, which is the foreign carnival, same big old bottoming pattern. Over yesterday's high could be an $8 naked put. Hyatt and Marriott here, same. There's look at McGraw, the $80 puts. It's October though, so that's a long way away. But the 80s are like 75 cents. It's huge. They don't have weeklies. Hyatt doesn't, but Marriott does. And I was looking at the 152s. For Marriott, it's gapping up. We had retail sales today. A lot of economic numbers at 8:30. That's a pullback to support, opening flat, so that's telling me nothing. Coke and Pepsi are both bear 1, 2, 3s. This one I like better just because it has more room to fall. I got an alarm set already. SMH I posted as a call spread. That's a 1, 2, 3. Qs are the best one for directional if the markets are going to decide to continue down. So I have, I say, bear put debit spread, which is what we call a mildly bearish directional trade. And so we buy one put, selling out of the money put to lower it. And I'm doing that just because I see the support over there, but still. This looks like a buyout. STOR. Look at this thing ripping going sideways. I didn't check the news, but that's what it looks like. Megal. What crazy price action. I mean, this IPO went to 260, then back down to $5. I'll keep an eye on it. On Dunking, I've been watching this for a core. You know, we got our big bottoming pattern on the daily, broke out, buy setup and support. It's exactly what we want to see. We missed the initial end. We did a put spread, but I didn't give the buy. I wish I did. And so now we got a little continuation pattern here. Could set up a 1, 2, 3. So I like that. And so the only thing slowing me down on more directionals is the broader market. And I see I'm weakening a little bit here pre-market. I'll set an alarm 1840. Higher. This was one I've been watching for a while as a potential core. Last week you had a gap breakout, which obviously is this. And do you remember I said, I hope it takes a week or two to set up. And that's exactly what it's doing. It's just bobbling around at resistance, pulled back yesterday is a range expansion bar. Still not a no-brainer because you got all these overlapping bars, but it's still worth watching. It's doing what I want. TAN, just bullish again. Yesterday retracement. I told you that's such an amazing topic. So in terms of the bars, 1, 2, 3, we got 5 consolidation bars in the upper 50% of this igniting. That is bullish. So I already have an alarm set up here, but that looks fantastic. But once again, it's the broader markets. I'm not going to get into something and then have the tide go out and drag my stock down. Deck had, I think Wedbush came out and called it a top pick. Fizzler. It's just too extended for me. No, they're not the same. No, TAN is, we'll come back later. I don't want to do it now. All right, Adobe. Now, can somebody tell me, did Adobe have earnings pre-market or post-market? Because CNBC was talking about this being a mover this morning. And then in the bottom left, it says they miss earnings, their revenues are this. And then the guy says earnings are after the bell. And I'm like, what are you talking about? It says right, well, all right. Okay, see, that's so a couple of us are confused. But Adobe is kind of a Wall Street love stock, and this is a nasty gap. And the reason I'm curious about Adobe is because if I want to sell a 1 DTE put spread, that's why I'm asking this. So let's see where this wants to bounce. I have it right here. That's not a good pattern that I would be wanting to sell into earnings. That's weird. You're saying they announced earnings pre-market, but the conference call not till after. Dunking up alarm already. So this is acting fantastic. But the only thing holding me back is the broader market. So I'm just going to put it on a window on my other computer. Hood was on my list yesterday. I see that popping a little bit. Let's keep an eye on that to sell $10 puts. Lyft is a go for selling those out of the money. Out of the money. Out of the money puts. Yeah, they did do an acquisition. I did see that part. All right, I'm in Lyft at 66 cents myself. It's a that's a beautiful pattern. Just the broader markets are dicey.